Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Ram Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Ram Hare Ram 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 Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Ram Hare Ram Ram Ram. Hare Krishna
वाञ्छा कल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभ्यैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः. अनंत कोटि वैष्णव वृंद की जय. श्रीला प्रभुपाद की जय. Assembled devotees ki jai. Thank you everyone for joining today's mid morning call. Forgive me for interrupting your ecstatic chanting. May I know who all joined this morning?
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. This is Neetu from Baltimore.
Hare Krishna Neetu Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your association. Very beautiful chanting Mataji. Hare Krishna.
हरे कृष्ण वनिता गंधर्विका माता जी दंडवत प्रणाम श्रील प्रभुपाद की जय गुरु महाराज की जय प्रीति दासी फ्रॉम शार्लोट हरे कृष्ण
Priti Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association. Welcome to the call. Hari Bol.
हरे
Krishna Mataji, Priti Sarma Ambulu businesses Srila Prabhupada ki jay Guru and Gauranga ki jay. This is Shivani from West Virginia. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Shivani Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association every day. Hari Bol.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. This is Preeti Vilasni Devi Dasi. Nice to see you, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Preeti Vilasni Mataji, Dhanavad Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your sweet association. All glories to your services Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna. Is there anybody who would like to introduce themselves?
Hare Krishna Mataji, pranam to you and all the assembled devotees. All glories to Srila Prabhupada, Shri Guru and Gauranga. Raj from Canada.
Hare Krishna Raj Prabhu, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you Prabhu for joining and chatting so beautifully. Welcome to the call. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, so glories to Srila Prabhupada, Guru Maharajas and all the assembled Vaishnavas. This is Kirtida Sundari Dasi.
Hare Krishna Kirtida Mataji, Dandvat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much Mataji for joining and giving your association. And we are eagerly waiting to hear from you Mataji. I'll start the recording here. Hare Krishna everyone, welcome to Bhakti Sangha Japa conference call. Before we start the call, I would like to read today's quote. 12th September, a musician, because one has got a good attachment for music, he tries to perform it very perfectly. So love is the basis. Similarly, when you serve Krishna, if you have no love for Krishna, you cannot serve him very nicely. And Krishna also does not accept your service if it is not done in a great love and affection. London, September 12, 1973. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. So today we are very fortunate to have her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji to enlighten us on the topic of Caitanya Bhagavat Adi Khanda 12th chapter. We are starting new chapter today, and today's date is 12th. Very nice, right? And we are going to have 1 to 19 verses. Hare Krishna Mataji, please accept my humble obeisances. All glories to Srila Prabhupada. Nice to see you, Mataji. We are very, very fortunate to have you on the call. Please take over the call, Mataji. Hari Bol. Looking very beautiful, Mataji. Mataji, you muted your microphone.
Hare Krishna, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji. Thank you so much for your very warm welcome. This beauty of this world will remain here. It will not go. The beauty that has to be enhanced has to be enhanced from within. So there is no credit of looking beautiful, because also beauty lies in the eyes of the observer. I know you like me, we are friends, so definitely you're praising, but it's not worth praising. So thank you, Mataji, and thank you each and every one of you for joining this call, for sharing your valuable time with all of us. And because that is what is needed. That's the most essential thing we have, that we can give it to others. And especially you are giving it to the oral reception of Chaitanya Bhagavat, which is so beautiful by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur. So really, really grateful to each and every one of you for joining us, for giving your valuable time and association. So we will start our session today. We'll start with the Mangalacharan verse, and then we'll go on to the verses. Om Ajnana Timirandhasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Shri Chaitanya Manobhishtam Sthapitam Yena Bhutale Swayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Swapadantikam Vandeham Shri Guru Shri Utapada Kamalam Shri Gurum Vaishnavamscha Shri Rupam Sagrajatam Sahagana Raghunatam Vitam Tam Sajivam Savadetu Sadvaitam Savadutam Parijana Sahitam Krishna Chaitanya Devam Shri Radha Krishna Padam Sahagana Lalita Shri Vishakham Vitamscha. हे कृष्णा करुणा सिंधु दीन बंधु जगतपते गोपेश गोपिका कांत राधा कांत नमस्तुते तप्त कांचन गौरंगी राधे वृंदावनेश्वरी वृषभानुसुते देवी प्रणमामि हरिप्रिये पंचतत्वात्मकं कृष्णं भक्त रूप स्वरूपं भक्ततारं भक्ताख्यं नमामि भक्त शक्तिकं नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्ण प्रस्थाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्ति वेदांत स्वामिनिति नामिने नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्य देशतारिणे वाञ्छाकल्पतरुभ्यश्च कृपा सिन्धुभैव च पतितानां पावनेभ्यो वैष्णवेभ्यो नमो नमः। श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभु नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर शिवास आदि गौर भक्त वृंदा। हरे कृष्ण 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 हरे 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 राम 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 हरे हरे। गुरुवे गौरचंद्राय राधिकाय तदालय कृष्णाय कृष्ण भक्ताय तद्भक्ताय नमो नमः। आनंद लीलामय विग्रहाय हेमा भदिव्या छवि सुंदराय तस्मै महाप्रेम रसाप्रदाय चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते चैतन्य चंद्राय नमो नमस्ते। आजानुलंबित भुजौ कनकावधातौ संकीर्तनैकपितरौ कमलायताक्षौ विश्वम्भरौ द्विजवरौ युगधर्मपालौ वन्दे जगद्गुरु करुणा अवतारौ। जयति जयति देवा कृष्ण चैतन्य चन्द्रो जयति जयति कीर्तिस्तस्य नित्या पवित्रा जयति जयति भृत्यास्तस्य विश्वेश्वमूर्तेर् जयति जयति नृत्यां तस्य सर्वप्रियाणाम्। मुखं करोति वाचालं पङ्गुं लङ्घयते गिरिं यत्कृपातमहं वन्दे श्रीगुरु दीनतारिणं परमानन्दमाधवं श्रीकृष्ण चैतन्य ईश्वरम्। Hare Krishna, dear devotees. So thank you once again for joining us. I really beg wishes, prayers, and blessings from each and every one of you so that the right message can be conveyed as per given by Srila Vrindavan Das Thakur and beautifully commented by His Divine Grace Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. So please shower your blessings. I really pay obeisances to each and every one of you. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripa sindhu bhayevacha patitanam pavanebhyo vaishnavebhyo namo namaha. So we are in the chapter number 12 of Adi Leela of Chaitanya Bhagavat. This chapter entitles as Lord's Wanderings Throughout Navadvip. In the previous chapter, we read about the meeting of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu with his spiritual master, Srila Ishvara Puripad. And after discussing that beautiful meeting, then Vrindavan Das Thakur discussed that how Mahaprabhu used to, depict his panditya, his scholarship, especially in the Sanskrit grammar with all his classmates. And he used to tease everybody, call everybody, challenge everybody. And there used to be a Shastrat. But none of them was, able to defeat the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because he's the Supreme Lord. So we discussed about that how even Mukunda wants to avoid the company of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, because Chaitanya Mahaprabhu would always call him, put him into spot and ask him all grammatical questions. And so Mukunda wants to avoid. But, this was just a pastime. So moving forward in this chapter number 12, Vrindavan Das Thakur is now discussing further how Mahaprabhu is still in Navadvip depicting his panditya about his knowledge of Sanskrit grammar. I'll just share the screen so that... Okay, Chaitanya Bhagavat. Yeah. So this is chapter number 12. So here I will not go to the summary because summary will spoil everything, because we will be reading each and every verse with different speakers. So we'll not go through the summary. But just for today's topic, what is needed is I'll just go through a few lines. So this chapter mainly describes Sri Gauranga's wandering the streets of Navadvip, his discussing scriptures on the banks of the Ganges, and his manifestation of various opulences. So among the best of teachers, learned scholars, and Bhattacharyas of Navadvip, none could stand before or defeat Nibai in debate. In the company of his disciples, Nimai wandered the streets of Navadvip like an independent lord. So like an independent lord, Mahaprabhu would just wander on the street of Navadvip, just challenging everybody and showing his panditya. Okay, so we'll start with verse number 1 and we'll go till verse number 19. So not much to discuss, so we'll just focus on the last verse, that is verse number 19, but we'll just go through rest of the verses. Jaya Jaya Mahaprabhu Shri Gaura Sundara, Jaya Hauka Prabhu Rayeta Ke Anuchara. Jai Jai Mahaprabhu, all glories, Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying all glories to Mahaprabhu Shri Gaura Sundara, and also all glories to the followers, Anuchara, one who walks on the path of our Supreme Lord. So the Anuchara means those who follow, the followers of the Supreme Lord. So he's giving all glories even to the followers. Hena mate Navadvipa Shri Gaura Sundara Pustakala ila kride kare nirantara. So in this way, because in the previous chapter also Vrindavan Das Thakur has described a little bit that how Mahaprabhu used to challenge everybody. So he's taking that discussion, that conversation further. So he's saying, in this way, Hena mate, in this way, Gaura Sundar, with a book in his hand, he would enjoy his pastimes in Navadvip. So that was his krida, his plaything. He would challenge everybody and in Sanskrit grammar because he himself was a great Pandit. यथा अध्यापक प्रभु चले न सबारा, प्रभु ते शक्ति हो को न जना नहीं धारा. He challenged any teacher, any adhyapaka, any teacher he would meet, he would just challenge him. But none of them, Shakti Kona Jana Nahi Dhare, none of them has the power to defeat him. Shri Gaurachandra, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur in the purport, right? Shri Gaurasundra defeated in scriptural debate all the teachers of Navadvip, which was the center of education. So Navadvip, we all know, was the center of education at that time. None of the teachers could compete with him or satisfy him with answers to his challenges because he was supreme lord, so nobody could defeat him. व्याकरण शास्त्रे सब विद्याराधन भट्टाचार्य प्रति और नाहित्रिक तृण ज्ञान. Although he was simply a student of grammar. So right now, Mahaprabhu, our dear Nimai, Gaurasundar, is just a student, right? He is a student of Sanskrit grammar. And he is a student, right? So he says, Vrindavan Das Thakur saying, although he was simply a student, Vyakrana Shastra Sabe Vidyaradhana, because he was learned in that Vyakran, in Sanskrit Vyakran, though he was a student, but nobody was able to defeat him. He nevertheless considered the learned Bhattacharyas. So Bhattacharyas are considered to be the learned sect of Navadvip in those times. They were very, very learned in scriptures, in Vedas. But Mahaprabhu was, at that time, apparently was just a student of Sanskrit grammar. But still, he would consider the Bhattacharyas to be Trinagyana. Nahika Trinagyana. Not even he compared them to be the blade of grass. It means for him, even the knowledge of Bhattacharyas, those who were the learned sect of Navadvip, was considered to be just a blade of grass, mere, not even a blade of grass, insignificant as grass. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes that learned scholars who are expert in philosophical literatures are known as Bhattacharyas. Although the Lord was studying and teaching only grammar, he nevertheless did not consider such great scholars as equal to even grass. Now, why is it so? Because their knowledge was not the right knowledge. The real knowledge is the knowledge of devotional service of the Supreme Lord. But Bhattacharyas, their knowledge was a dry knowledge, just focusing on the philosophical part. But that's not the actual learning. So Mahaprabhu didn't even recognize them as, as anything. Rather, he said, for me, they are insignificant as a blade of grass. स्वानुभवानंदे करे नगर भ्रमण संहति परम भाग्यवंत शिष्य गण. Swanubhava Anande. Swanubhava means he is Atmaram. He is self-satisfied. So that Supreme Lord, that Nimai, that Gaurasundar, who is self-satisfied, he just traveled throughout Navadvip, and along with his most fortunate students, Parma Bhagyavanta Shishyagana. So those students who were very, very fortunate. Why? Because they were the followers of our Nimai. They were Anuchara of our Nimai, who were studying in his Anugatya. So therefore, Vrindavan Das Thakur is saying that they are so Bhagyavan, they are so fortunate. No one was able to contradict the Lord's realized knowledge. The Lord wandered the streets of Navadvip by his own sweet supreme will. And at that time, the most fortunate subordinate students kept company with the Lord. So one day, what happened? Daive pathe mukandera sanga darshana haste dhari prabhu tahe bole na vachana. So while wandering on the streets of Navadvip and challenging everybody left, right, and center, then Mahaprabhu met Mukunda. So one day, by the will of the providence, by his sweet supreme will, the Lord met Mukunda on the road. And the Lord held Hastadhari Prabhu. He held the hand of Mukunda and he spoke to him. Amare dekhiya tumi ki kareyo palayo aji ama prodhiya vina dekhiyayo. Why do you run away as soon as you see me? So we also discussed that people used to avoid his company because Mahaprabhu would take anybody and would challenge him in Sanskrit grammar. And everybody would fail. They were not able to defeat Nimai. So they just don't want to associate with Nimai. That was the condition. And same with Mukunda. So now he's asking, he's holding the hand of Mukunda and he's asking, Amara dekhya tumhi ki karyo pala? Why do you always run away after seeing me? Let me see how you run away today without answering me, without answering my questions. Now, poor Mukunda, he's thinking, Mane bhave Mukunda, aji jiniyuma ke mane, iha sabhyasa sabha matra vyakarane. Now, Mukunda thought it's impossible to defeat Nimai in Sanskrit, in Vyakran. So how will I defeat him today? Now he's asking questions for him answer. He himself is so well-versed, but he is well-versed only in grammar. So this was the thought process that was going on in the mind of Mukunda. Because now he's been spotted by Mahaprabhu. So he's thinking that I cannot avoid now. I have to answer all his questions. He is not going to let me go by any chance today. So I have to answer his questions. But at the same time, he's thinking he himself is so well-versed. It's so impossible to defeat Nimai. But then a thought came in the mind of Mukunda that ihana abhyasa sabha matra vyakrane. He is well-versed only in Sanskrit grammar. So Mukunda was thinking, well, this is the point. This was his manabhav, that thought, that thinking process came in the mind of Mukunda, that he is well-versed, that Mahaprabhu, our Nimai, is well-versed only in Vyakran, only in Vyakran of Sanskrit. So, Thekaimo aji jig nashiya alankara, mora sane yena garvana karena ara. So what Mukunda thought, now today I'll not discuss with him Vyakran. Those who are very well-versed in certain things, you normally try to avoid discussing if you want to bring them down. If you want to learn something from some senior Vaishnavas and you know that they are well-versed in a certain aspect, then naturally, because you want to learn more, you will discuss such subject topics with those Vaishnavas because you want to know more about the certain aspect of, or as per the subject matter. But if you want to defeat somebody, then naturally you'll find out some weak points, right? That's a common thing. You'll find out the weak things that a person has, and that way you will defeat him, right? So similarly, Mukunda thought, well, this Nimai is very well versed in Sanskrit grammar. Nobody can defeat him. So I am not going to discuss this topic of Sanskrit grammar, this Vyakran with him at any cost. Thekaimu, Prabhupada Saraswati write, the word thekaimu means I will cheat, means to put someone in danger or illusion or to defeat or to overpower somebody. So now here Mukunda wants to overpower Nimai. So naturally he doesn't want to discuss the subject in which Nimai is very good at, right? So Nimai was very good at Sanskrit Vyakran. So he thought, okay, today I'm not going to discuss with him any kind of Vyakran. But then what? I'll discuss him the questions on alankar. That is the ornaments. That is the figure of speech that is being used while discussing. And then, Mora shane yena garva na karene ara. And then he will, because he will be defeated in that alankar shastra, then he will not display his pride before me. So this was the thought process. So these are the alankar shastras. So we know the figure of speech like there are so many, like especially Anupras Alankar, we have the repetition, the repetition of the words. So there are different figure of speech that a poet or a writer, he uses in his or her writings. So now, similarly in Sanskrit also, we have different Alankars. So Mukunda said, okay, today is the time. I'm going to discuss him about the Alankars. And then he will be defeated. And lagila jignasa mukundera prabhu shane prabhu kande yata atra mukunda vakhane. Then Mukunda, he said, yes, today I'm going to defeat you. And Mukunda began to ask the questions to the Supreme Lord. And whatever Mukunda established, the Lord would refute, because he was not only expert in Sanskrit grammar, but he was very expert in Alankar Shastra also. Mukunda bole na vyakrana shishu shastra balake he ihara vichara kare matra. Mukunda said, this grammar, this vyakran is a shishu shastra, means it is studied only by the children. It's elementary level, right? Because if you want to know any language, the very first thing you have to know is the grammar. Right. Definitely, you need to know about the alphabets, then the arrangement of those alphabets, making some terms and making some words. But then what comes is the grammatical part. So you need to know the grammar if you want to know any language, right? Then only you will be able to speak, and then you will be able to write something good. So Mukunda Bolena, Mukunda said, this Vyakran is Shishu Shastra. It's the basic thing you need to know about for any language. So it is a Shishu Shastra. It is an elementary level. It is studied only by children. Balake say vihara vichare kare matra. He's thinking that this is just an elementary level. I'm not going to talk to you. Why do you want to talk to everybody only on this grammatical part? We are not going to talk today. Then what are we going to talk today? Alankara vichara kariba tome shane prabhu kaye bujha tora yevalay mane. Mukunda said, okay, so today we will discuss Alankar Shastra, the figure of speech. But God replied, Bujha Tora Yabe Lai Mane. Okay, as you desire, Mukunda. If you want to discuss about the Alankar Shastra, so be it. Go ahead. Vishama Vishamayata Kavitva Prachara Padiya Mukunda Jigashaya Alankara. Mukunda then read some of the most difficult, but yes, well-known verses, and asked the Lord to point out any faults in it. Sarva Shakti Maya Gaura Chandra Avatara Khanda Khanda Kari Doshe Sabha Alankara. And our supreme omnipotent Gaura Sundar, our Nimai, he pointed out various faults in the verses. And not only like how he find out the faults, Khanda Khanda Kari, at every aspect describing that this is what it should be and this is what it should not be. Khanda Khanda Kari. And this way he found out many faults in that one verse on this topic of Alankar Shastra. Because Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes, since Sri Gaurachandra is the omnipotent supreme personality of Godhead and the source of all incarnations, his knowledge in all scriptures is matchless. It's not only he was good, he was erudite in only Sanskrit grammar, but he was well versed in all the knowledge of all the scriptures, and that was matchless. Therefore, the Lord pointed out various ornamental faults in Mukunda's questions. Mukunda sthapite nare prabhu rakhandana hasiya hasiya prabhu bole na vachana. Mukunda was unable to re-establish what the Lord had refuted. So see the level. Mukunda recited some verse, want Mahaprabhu to point out some ornamental faults, some, Alankar dosh in that verse. And Mahaprabhu was easily able to find out. And the faults that Mahaprabhu was able to find out, Mukunda was not able to re-establish those faults also. And Hasiya Prabhu. And Lord could make out from the face of Mukunda that he is not able to understand anything. So the Lord then smiled and said to him, Aji ghare giya bhale mata punti chaha kali bhuji bana jate ashi bare chaha. Then Mukunda, Lord Mahaprabhu, he said, go home, Mukunda, ajiya ghare giya. Now you can go home. But when you go home, study carefully. Bhale mate punticha. You should study carefully all the books. And then Kali Bhuji Bana, come tomorrow again early and Ashi Bare Chaha, and we will again discuss this subject matter in great detail. So you now first go home, study your books carefully. You are talking that, my understanding is just on the elementary level. It's just the Shishu Shastra. So now you go home, study your scriptures very well. Tomorrow, come early in the morning and we'll discuss this further. Go home today. चलिया मुकुंद लाई चरणेर धूली मने मने चिंतय मुकुंद कुतूहली. So Mukunda, he took the dust, Charanara Dhuli, he took the dust from Nimai's feet and he went. But while going, he was just thinking, because there was a lot of questions that arise in the heart of Mukunda. Mukunda kutuhali, kutuhal mach gaya tha unke hriday mein. There was some disturbance that was going on, back and forth question, acceptance and rejection was there in the heart of Mukunda. And he was analyzing everything what Mahaprabhu said. So he departed after taking the dust of the lotus feet of Nimai. Manushera ei mata pandite achhe ko tha, hena shastre nahi ka abhyasa nahi aata. So what Mukunda was thinking, how can a manushya, means an ordinary being, a panditya, how can such an ordinary living being, a human being, can possess such knowledge? There is no literature that he is not conversant with. So he was thinking that Mahaprabhu is conversant in every literature, in all knowledge of all the scriptures. So, but he was thinking, how can just an ordinary man, an ordinary human being, can possess this vast knowledge? Ei mata subuddhi Krishna bhakta hai, ya be tilak ihana sange na chadiyatave. So this is the verse. I'm so sorry, the numberings are not there, right? Yeah, so this is the 19th verse, the last verse for today. And we will focus on this verse because Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur has given a great purport, a detailed purport to this verse. So what Mukunda is thinking, Ei mate subuddhi Krishna bhakta he yabe. He is thinking that this Nimai is subuddhi. He has such a great intelligence, very good intelligence he has. But if such a person, such an intelligent person can become a Krishna bhakta, can become a devotee, tilako ehana sange na chadiya yabe, then til ke saman, compared to a sesame seed, I will not leave his association. So how small is the sesame seed? If there is a sesame seed between two objects, you can hardly find out the gap between those two things, right? Because it is so small. So similarly, Mukunda is thinking that tilako ehana sange na chadiya tabe. If this intelligent Nimai becomes Krishna Bhakta, then I would never leave his association, not even for a tilamatra, not even for a compared to a sesame seed. I will not leave his association. The meaning is that I will not leave Mahaprabhu's association even for a moment if this boy, if this Nimai, if this intelligent person becomes a Krishna Bhakta. So Mukunda began to think about the Lord as follows. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes, if such an extraordinary, knowledgeable and intelligent person engaged his mind in worshipping Krishna, then I would not leave his association and go elsewhere even for a moment. So at that time, Mahaprabhu has yet not depicted his bhakta bhav, his emotions of a devotee. He was still in his Panditya form, defeating everybody, whosoever he meets in Navadvip. So everybody doesn't want to come in the company of Mahaprabhu. So therefore, Mukunda is thinking that this boy, this Nimai, is so well-versed in all the Shastras. If he can become Krishna Bhakta, then how great it will be. I myself will not leave his company even for a moment. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes further, knowledge elevates a person to the highest position in this world, or makes one extraordinary respectable. Yes, why not? Even the mundane knowledge, the knowledge of this world, also makes one to the extraordinary respectable position. Why? Because this is the vibhuti of you, the vibhuti of the Supreme Lord. It is one of the opulence. So we know the 6 opulences of the Supreme Lord. That's why he is known as Bhagavan, because he possesses. And one of those 6 opulences is knowledge. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes that even the knowledge, this mundane knowledge, elevates a person to the highest position of this world. But if along with such knowledge, devotion to the Lord manifest in a great personality, then it is like gold mixed with borax. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes that when the gold is mixed with borax, it makes gold more shiny. So yes, gold itself is such a shining thing, right? But when it is mixed with borax, it becomes more shiner. So here also Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur wants to bring up this position that if such an intelligent person who is definitely worthy, praiseworthy, even if he has the knowledge of this mundane literature or mundane world, but it is actually the opulence, right? It is one of the vibhuti of Krishna. So it is praiseworthy. But if such a person, if he mixes his knowledge with the devotion of the Supreme Lord, then it is gold mixed with borax. In Hindi, we say, right, Sone pe suhaga. That's how it is. It becomes more shiner. Less intelligent devotees always hear the scriptures from the learned devotees. And by hearing scriptures in this way, one's devotional service will be refined. If a living entity considers devotional scriptures or scriptural knowledge as equal to ordinary mundane knowledge, which aims at material enjoyment, then his devotional service is not enhanced. So, yes, we have to hear the topics related to Krishna Bhakti. That only topics we have to focus on. We should hear these scriptures, and it has to be heard from the learned devotees. But by hearing scriptures, what happened? Like, we just don't want to, fill our brain with all that knowledge. If the brain is filled with all the knowledge of scriptures, but the heart is not transformed, then there is no use of such knowledge. The heart has to be transformed from this various knowledge. Yes, we get to hear so many Srimad Bhagavatam classes, Chaitanya Charitamrita classes, various classes, day and night we give that oral reception. But if hearing those sessions, if heart doesn't get transformed, then all such knowledge only gets accumulated in our brain. So in our brain, we become very sharp. We know in and out of the entire Bhagavatam, entire Chaitanya Charitamrita. We can quote so many verses from various scriptures. But when provoking situation comes in our life, at that time, if that knowledge that we have heard from Srimad Bhagavatam and various scriptures like Chaitanya Charitamrita or Chaitanya Bhagavat, if we fail to apply those knowledge in such provoking situations, then that knowledge is of no use. So yes, knowledge is important. We have to have that knowledge because the real cause is ignorance. We are in this samsara chakra, right? We are in this samsara chakra. So the real knowledge is we are in this samsara chakra, right? So why we are in this? That knowledge has to come. Who are we? Why I am here? Why I am wandering from one womb to another in different species of life? That understanding should be there. Yes, that knowledge is important. That knowledge will help us to break through this chakra, this samsara chakra, from where, there is a seed. In Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, Rupa Goswami has described that there is a seed, a bija, that provokes us to perform any sinful sinful actions. So because of those sinful actions, because to bear the reactions, we come again and again in this material world. And those actions may be a pious action or a sinful action. It doesn't matter. But to bear the fruits of our actions, we have to come. So there is a seed. Then there is a kutam, that is the propensity to perform such actions. And then we have prarabdha karma and then aprarabdha karma. Then we have to bear something, and then something is accumulated in our account. But then again, it gets transformed into beej because we have to come again, fresh start. But that beej, that propensity, that kutam is always there in our heart. So this whole chakra will go on and on and on and on. It has to be destroyed. It has to be cut off at some point of time. How can we cut if we don't even acknowledge that we are in this samsara chakra day and night, time from one point to another, we are always in this samsara. If we don't even realize it, then what's the point? See, if we have a disease, a simple example, If I'm suffering from some disease, I will go to the doctor only when I acknowledge that I'm suffering from a disease. If I'm not suffering from a disease, I'll not even go and see a doctor. So similarly, if we don't even realize that this is a samsara chakra in which I am entangled, then I will not go and seek a spiritual doctor. But the moment I realize, I'll go and seek a spiritual doctor, and that spiritual doctor will give us knowledge that why we are here, how can we cut it down, and how can we just relieve ourselves from this samsara chakra and go back to Godhead. So that knowledge is very important. So therefore, Rupa Goswami points out in his Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that the original cause of all these samsara chakra is avidya, is ignorance. We are ignorant, right? We are ignorant. We are born ignorant. But now, when we are here in the association of devotees, we should try to understand that this ignorance will not lead us to anywhere. So we have to seek the spiritual doctor. We have to seek spiritual masters, our Shiksha Gurus, our Diksha Gurus. Ask some relevant questions. Pariprashnena sevaya. Upadekshanti te jnanam, jnaninas tattvadarshina, because they are tattvadarshina, because they know, they are expert in this field, so they will guide us. And only then we will be able to cut down. So this is the knowledge, which is important, which is very, very important. So in this regard, I was thinking, like Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes in his purport, that how this knowledge of devotional service, it's very important. So I was referring to Sri Chaitanya Charitamrita, where in Madhya Leela, Mahaprabhu, actually Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes a verse where he says that Mahaprabhu came to this world just to give us three things. Yes, there are, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes that there are internal reasons, external reasons of the advent of Mahaprabhu. And the ultimate is Krishna Prem, that Mahaprabhu came to this world to give freely to each and every one of us without considering one's eligibility or not. But still, Mahaprabhu came to just freely give this Krishna Prem. But along with that, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami quotes that, what Mahaprabhu came, and he says, Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga Shiksharthameka Purusha Purana Shri Krishna Chaitanya Sharira Dhari Kripam Vidurvyastamevam Prapadde. So what Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami is saying, Kripam Buddhir, he is the ocean of Kripa. He is the ocean of mercy. And therefore, aham prapadde, I surrender unto that Supreme Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, that Supreme Lord, who came as, I am surrendered to that Supreme Lord Shri Krishna, who came as Shri Krishna Chaitanya Shariradhari. He came as Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to teach us three things. Ekaha Purusha Purana. He is the Supreme Lord. He is the Parama Purusha. He is the Supreme Lord. And Shikshartham, he gave us three Shikshas. And what are those three Shikshas that Mahaprabhu came to give us? Is Vairagya Vidya Nija Bhakti Yoga. He came to give us three things. First is Vairagya. Second is Vidya, the knowledge. And third is Nija Bhakti, his own Bhakti. So we'll just discuss a little more about this verse and then we'll conclude our session. So Vairagya. So he came to give us Vairagya. Now what is this Vairagya? Vairagya, because in a layman term, we understand that Vairagya means just the detachment. To get oneself detached from a certain things. When says that Vairagya ho gaya usko, right? Because he left his family or he left all his wealth. Vairagya le liya, that's how the common layman term it is. So Vairagya means detachment from matter. But the definition doesn't end here. Vairagya in spiritual sense, understanding is that yes, we have to get detached from this mundane material things, this mundane matter things. But at the same time, there should be some engagement of the mind and spirit. So there should be some engagement of the mind in some spiritual things. Otherwise, the Vairagya, the so-called Vairagya, is not considered the true Vairagya, is not considered to be the true renunciation. So Mahaprabhu, while giving the Shiksha to Sanatan Goswami on Vairagya, he came up to the point where he discussed that there are three types of Vairagya. First is Shuksh Vairagya. Shuksh Vairagya means the dry renunciation. You know, when dry renunciation means when you leave something just out of dryness, means there is detachment from the matter. Yes, that is there, but there is no engagement in the spiritual things. That is dry renunciation. That renunciation will not help us to achieve our ultimate goal, that is Krishna Prem. So to achieve that ultimate goal, that dry renunciation has to be avoided. So that's what Mahaprabhu told. That Mahaprabhu was, he was discussing this subject matter with Sanatan Goswami, and he said that one should really understand the real meaning of this Vairagya. So this Shuksha Vairagya, this dry renunciation has to be avoided. Shuksha Vairagya jana sabha nishadhila. So Mahaprabhu says that this dry renunciation has to be forbidden at every point of time. And then Mahaprabhu explains that what this dry renunciation is. Like normally we see people who come into Krishna consciousness, they have certain vows, they have their own things to do. Yes, the basic is chanting 16 rounds, following the four principles, regulative principles of freedom. That is being given by Srila Prabhupada. But if we consider even Srila Prabhupada, what he did, he also gave these principles as per time, place, and circumstances, Desh, Kal, Parasthiti. Because when he came to West, at that time, when Srila Prabhupada, when he came to West, he saw these foreigners are engaged into all kinds of illicit things. No one was even giving an oral reception to Srila Prabhupada except these so-called hippies. Why? Because they have rejected the world altogether. So they were not even listening to their parents, to their friends, no one. So, but they heard Srila Prabhupada because Srila Prabhupada knew how to control them. He didn't tell them, go and do this and do that. Slowly and gradually, with baby steps, making Prabhupada bring them to this position that they could understand what Srila Prabhupada was talking about. So then Prabhupada gave them to chant 64 rounds, which was impossible for the foreigners. So as per the Desh Kal Parasthiti, as per the time, place, and circumstances, and the eligibility of the candidate, Prabhupada came down to 16. So this is being a Vairagya. Now, if somebody says that, well, Prabhupada taught us to chant 64 rounds, and no matter at whatever point of time, I have to chant 64 rounds. That's very good, but not on the pretext of sacrificing your home, your work, your worldly duties. If we do that and chant 64 rounds, but we neglect our duties of being in any ashram we are in, then that chanting is considered to be the dry renunciation. Means that I am leaving my worldly duties. I should not be attached to my worldly duties. But if I am in a particular ashram, and if I don't follow my ashram properly, and instead just say that, let me chant, I'm just Vairagya, I'm renouncing my so-called worldly duties, and I just want to chant, then that is dry renunciation. So that has to be avoided. We have to see as per time, place, and circumstances. Now, don't take me wrong. I'm not saying that we should not chant 64 rounds or we should not increase the number of rounds. I'm not saying that. We should increase the number of rounds, provided we take care of our worldly duties. In that case, the best we can do is sacrifice our sleep. Sacrifice our sleep and be more efficient in our work, so that we have enough time to chant more, but not on the cost of leaving our family duties. Because if we are leaving family duties because I don't want to keep or because it's a burden on me, well, that renunciation is being forbidden by Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. He says, I don't follow. That is niyamagraha. You are trying to follow something which is impossible. So don't do that. Instead, follow something better. And then Mahaprabhu gave another Vairagya. Then he said about Markat Vairagya. Markat Vairagya na karelo ka dekhana yatha yogya vishwabhuna anak saktahana. So here also Mahaprabhu says that Markat Vairagya, we should not show ourselves as a show bottle devotee. That, oh wow, I'm wearing kantimala, I'm nicely wearing devotional clothes, but inside there is no Vairagya. There is no Vairagya. There is no renunciation at all. I'm still attached to my worldly things, my worldly sense objects and other things. That is not right. That is, Mahaprabhu explained, is the Markat Vairagya. Why Markat Vairagya? It is also known as Falgu Vairagya. That is false renunciation. So Mahaprabhu makes up this point that just like monkeys, Markat actually in Sanskrit, it means monkey. Right? So monkeys make an external show of their renunciation. They don't accept any clothing. They live in the forest. They eat only fruits, and they are totally on their own, right? So they consider themselves renunciate. Oh, I'm such a renunciate. I don't need anything. I'm on my own. But actually, are they really renounced? No, they are not. Rather, they are simply enjoying sense gratification by dozens of female monkeys. So their renunciation is a Markat Vairagya, right? Renunciation of a monkey. One cannot be really renounced when one actually, unless and until one actually understands that this material activity is really a burden on me, or is really a temporary thing. Out of burden, if we are renouncing our duties, that is dry renunciation. And out of show, if we are renouncing, that is false renunciation. So we should renounce only with the proper understanding of what it is, not just simply renouncing. Prabhupada also gives the example that people work day and night. They work hard, just like donkeys, they work day and night. But then what happened? One day, one of the colleague dies, and then they go to the crematorial ground, and there the natural emotions arises in the mind. Oh, why I'm working day and night? See, this my colleague is such a wonderful, he was a work alcoholic, but now what is the destination? Because of that being work alcoholic, he was not able to take care of his health. Earning money is okay, but to an extent where you sacrifice your health is not good. So that if a person start thinking that, oh, see, what happened to the destination of my colleague? What's the destination he achieved? He is in this crematorial ground, not able to take care of his health. So why even I am working day and night? So such emotions, they normally come in that crematorial ground. But as soon as one comes home, returns back from that cremation ground, again engages oneself in the activity of sense gratification. What it is, this is known as Shamshan Vairagya, also known as Markat Vairagya. This is what the Markat Vairagya is, false renunciation. If somebody thinks that, like Srila Bhaktivinoda Thakur always used to say, Mathe tilak gala kanthi mala, aage piche sundar bala. We are wearing this tilak, we are wearing this kanthi mala, we are wearing this devotional dress, very, very showing off that we are a devotee. But if a heart is not of that of a devotee, then all these externals are insignificant, right? So Mahaprabhu explains that yes, one should not engage in dry renunciation, one should not engage in false renunciation, but one should engage in yukta vairagya. And what is that yukta vairagya? Anasaktya visham yadartham upayunjatah nirbandha krishna sambandhe yuktam vairagyam uchyate. We have to accept even these material things, we have to accept. We don't want to renounce them. We don't want to renounce them till the time we are using them in Krishna's service. Now I'm using this laptop. I'm using this technology of Zoom. But for what? To speak Krishna Katha. You all are joining through your various gadgets, maybe a phone or an iPad, or maybe some tablet, maybe some laptops or computers. So you are using all these things to listen what? To listen Chaitanya Bhagavat, to understand the words of Vrindavan Das Thakur or the words of Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur. So we are using in a proper service, in Krishna Sambandha. If we are using, then this is known as Yukta Vairagya. Why it is Vairagya? I'm using it. Then how come it is Vairagya? Because I'm not attached to it. If something happens to my laptop, it's fine. I'll get another one. I'll somehow arrange another one. But I'm not attached to a particular object. I'm using it for Krishna's service, but I'm not attached to it. Therefore, it is known as Vairagya and Yukta Vairagya, in union. Yukta means something in union. In union of what? In union of Krishna Sambandha. To establish the relationship with Krishna. To understand the devotional aspect of Krishna's service. So if that is, if we are using anything for Krishna's service, then, and we are not attached to it at the same time, that is what is Yukta Vairagya. That is what Mahaprabhu establishes while giving this Sanatan Shiksha to Sri Sanatan Goswami. He says that yes, we have to have that anasaktya vishayan, that when we are not attached to anything, but at the same time accept everything in Krishna's service, then it is rightly said to be the real renunciation, the Yukta Vairagya. So Mahaprabhu came to give us Vairagya. That was the first point. And then he came to give us Vidya. Vairagya, Vidya, Nija Bhakti Yoga. These three things, right? So first we discussed about Vairagya. So what is the real renunciation that we have to follow? Then comes Vidya. That yes, as we also discussed, that the real knowledge is important. This knowledge of devotional service. If we just think that this mundane knowledge will take us somewhere, yes, it will take us somewhere in this material world only, but not beyond. If we really want to go beyond, then we have to have the knowledge of devotional service, because bhakti is not the commodity of this world. If we want to have bhakti, we have to come out of the paradigm of those mundane thoughts. And that can only be possible when we surrender unto a person who knows about it, who knows this. Jnanina tattva darshina, those who know this absolute truth. We have to surrender unto them. Only then we will get this real knowledge of devotional service. So this Vidya is very, very important. Narottam Das Thakur also sings that how ignorant we are. So actually Narottam Das Thakur is singing, but he's not singing for himself, but he's singing for people like us, people like me. He's singing for a person like me who is not able to understand the real knowledge and is still just wasting one's time in all those ignorant activities. So what he says, Hari Hari Bipale Janama Guayu, that I am just wasting my life, right? Manusha Janama Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya Janiya Shuniya Vish Khayo. After attaining this rarest form of human life, Manusha Janma Paya Radha Krishna na bhajiya, still I'm not able to worship the supreme divine couple, Shishi Radha and Krishna. Then Janiya Shuniya Vishkhayu, knowingly I am eating poison, because I know that what has to be done with this human form of life. But knowing it, I'm neglecting it. That means I'm willfully, with all agreement, I'm drinking poison. So that has to be avoided. We should have the knowledge of devotional service. As Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes, that yes, we should always hear the scriptures from the learned devotees. By hearing scriptures, what happens? One's devotional service will be refined. So we are not hearing scriptures just to train our brain, but we are hearing scriptures so that the heart gets transformed. So that when provoking situations knocks on the door, then we should have the right understanding how to deal with them. Otherwise, whatever will be there inside will come out. Like Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj, His Holiness Bhakti Tirtha Swami Maharaj would always used to say that what will you get when you squeeze an orange? You'll get orange juice, you'll not get mango juice. If you squeeze a mango, you'll get mango juice. If you squeeze apple, you'll get apple juice, right? So whatever fruit you squeeze in, you will get. Why? Because that juice is stored in that fruit. Similarly, if we are storing lust, anger, greed, pride in us, then provoking situation when they will come and squeeze us, then all these things will come out. Why? Because we are filled with all those things. Though we are filled with high-class knowledge in our brain, but our heart is still filled with anarthas. So when the life will knock us, then all these things will come out. To avoid these things to come out, we have to replace our heart with all those positive thinkings. And that can only happen when one hears these scriptural knowledge, these knowledge of devotional service from a realized soul. When we hear from those realized soul, then naturally their consciousness gets rub on our consciousness and our consciousness gets purified. Now, if you are hearing here, definitely after hearing my class, I cannot guarantee that your heart will get transformed because I am not speaking through my realized knowledge. I'm just parroting what I heard. I'm also aspiring sadhaka, still sitting on a journey of trying to being a devotee. So definitely my classes won't help. But if we really want our heart to be transformed, then we should hear the classes of pure devotees. Only then our heart will get transformed. Only then we'll get Krishna Bhakti. Only then we'll get Krishna Prem. Only then our heart will get transformed. Only then we will be able to understand why I am here, what I am doing, staying here, what I am achieving. Let my mind go to Vrindavan. Let me go and take Vrindavan Vas. That realizations will only come when we associate with self-realized devotees or the devotees who have attained their sadhya, their goal in their sadhana. So it is how important it is that knowledge has to be gained, knowledge of devotional service, and that too from the realized soul. And the last thing that Mahaprabhu came to give us is Nija Bhakti Yoga. He came to give his own Nija Bhakti, his own Bhakti, because we know Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Radha Krishna, Nahi Anya. There is no difference between Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu because it's the same Krishna taking the mood of Srimati Radharani has come as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to distribute Krishna Prem freely worldwide without realizing any eligibility whatsoever. Krishna came in Krishna Leela in Dwapar Yuga. He performed his pastimes. He saw gopis giving all love to Krishna and then he went back. But then he realized that he cannot repay the debt of all these gopis. That philosophy that he gave in Bhagavad Gita, Ye Yatha Mam Prapadyate, failed in Vrindavan because Krishna was not able to reciprocate. But then to reciprocate the love of the devotees, to basically understand their love of the gopis, he came as Mahaprabhu, taking the mood of Srimati Radharani. So Mahaprabhu is Radha, Krishna, Nahi Anya. There is no difference between Radha and Krishna and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Krishna came as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, taking the mood of Srimati Radharani to distribute what? His own bhakti. Because Radharani was worshipping Krishna, was devoted to Krishna, was performing devotional service to Krishna. And Krishna couldn't understand that what is there in me, that, these gopis are selflessly serving me. In the middle of the night, in the middle of the forest, they are ready to give up their family members. They are ready to give up all the shame, all the chastity, and they are coming here in the middle of the night, in the middle of the forest. With abhay, without any fear, with fearlessness, they are coming. For what? What is there in me? That Krishna is thinking. What is there in me? So to understand his own bhakti, therefore, Krishnadas Kaviraj Goswami says, Nija Bhakti, his own bhakti, Mahaprabhu. His own bhakti, Krishna is coming as Chaitanya Mahaprabhu to give. That bhakti which has never ever been given by any of the incarnation of the Supreme Lord. any of the incarnation whatsoever. Therefore, he also writes in his start of Chaitanya Charitamrita, Anarpitam chiram chirat karuna vitirna kalau samarpaitum unnata ujjvala. He came to give that highest ujjvala ras, that adi ras, that madhurya ras, which is unnat, which is the highest. He came to give samarpaitum unnata ujjvalam rasam swabhakti shriyam, his own bhakti, the treasure of his own bhakti he has come to give. He's opening that treasure house for all of us to come and plunder that. Right? That's the mood of Mahaprabhu. Mahavadanyaya avatar. It's the most munificent Supreme Lord who came to give his own bhakti. Right? So therefore, we'll conclude our session here that what Saraswati Thakur, Prabhupada, he's writing that how Mukunda, first of all, Vrindavan Das Thakur is thinking that how if this intelligent man, this intelligent Nimai can become a devotee? What if he becomes a devotee? He's super intelligent. What if he becomes a devotee? Then I'll give my life and soul to this Nimai. I'll not even spare a moment where I don't want to associate with Nimai. What if he becomes Krishna Bhakti? And to that, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes a beautiful purport saying that how important it is that we should have this right knowledge. Knowledge in brain is okay, but knowledge of heart is what is matters. And therefore, Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur quotes that how this knowledge is important, this vairagya is important. Why? Because Mahaprabhu came to give all these three things. So we should really, focus what are we achieving by hearing all these sessions. Are really our heart getting transformed? We should question ourselves. What if something happens at our home? How I am reacting to that situation? Am I able to press that pause button before reacting to a certain situation? So if we answer these questions and if we get all the answers, yes, that means we are progressing. We don't need to tell anybody. We don't need to tell that how I reacted, how I responded, see my devotion level has increased. No, we don't have to tell. We are our own judge. We are our own teachers. We have to judge ourselves, not others. Not others. We have to judge ourselves where I am in this path of Krishna consciousness. Am I really progressing? Or I am where I was 5 years back or 10 years back. We have to judge our own selves. So Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writing that if hearing the topics of the Lord from pure devotees is the only support in the less intelligent devotees' worship of the Supreme Lord, otherwise their propensity for worshipping of the Lord diminishes day by day. Yes, it's so true. We don't cruise along in Krishna consciousness. There is nothing called cruising along. When we take initiation, when we come in contact of Krishna consciousness devotees, we feel so enthusiastic. Our enthusiasm is almost to the level of 100, right? Then what happens? We take initiations, we take vows, and we are super active, super enthusiastic. But as the time passes, so this graph goes like this, right? We are zero. But after coming in contact with the devotees, after coming in contact with the pure spiritual masters, after taking initiation, the graph grows like this. But then what happens? The enthusiasm fails. We become less enthusiastic. Why? Because now we are interacting more, so we see more anarthas. We start seeing politics in ISKCON. We start seeing politics in the organization. We try judging the senior devotees or other devotees. That mentality of judgment comes in our mind. Previous, everybody is Prabhu and everybody is Mataji's. We are very, very respectable. But as we grow, then we start seeing them to be an ordinary person. We start seeing faults in our spiritual master. What to talk about the other Prabhujis and Matajis. So then what happened? We come to that level. And we think it's our thought process that we are cruising along. Yes, we agree that we are maybe not, our graph is not going in this direction, but we think that the graph is going in this direction. But my dear friends, we have to understand there is no graph like this in Krishna consciousness. Either has to be this or this. So we think that we are cruising along, but no, day by day, it doesn't happen instantly. It doesn't happen that today I'm chanting 64 rounds and tomorrow it will be 0. Maybe tomorrow also I'll be able to chant 64 rounds. Maybe day after also I'll be able to chant X number of rounds. But slowly it will go down. So the graph starts going down, but we don't realize it until and unless it goes back to 0. Sorry. Unless and until it goes back to 0, we don't realize it. Right? We think we are simply cruising along, but that doesn't happen in life of Krishna consciousness. That doesn't happen on the path of Krishna consciousness. Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur is writing that every day, if we are not associated with the high-class devotees, then our life, our worshipping of the Supreme Lord will diminish day by day, and we will be attacked by the mundane beliefs. So that's what it happens. So to protect us, what have to be done? We have to really protect us, right? So what has to be done if we have to protect our Krishna consciousness? Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitate Koriya Akya Arena Karo Hi Mane Asha Shri Guru Charane Rati Hey say Utama Gati Je Prasade Pure Sarva Asha. Narottam Das Thakur is saying that we have to constantly associate with our Shiksha Gurus, our Diksha Gurus. Constantly be in association. And Guru Mukha Padma Vakya Chitate Koriyakya. Here also Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur is writing, Sadhu Shastra Guru Vakya Hridaya Kariyatya. If one must consider the instructions of the sadhus, the revealed scriptures, and the spiritual master, gurus, sadhu, and shastra, in order to understand the real purpose of one's spiritual life. So we'll conclude here. Thank you all so much. This is all what Prabhupada wrote in the purport. This is all from Prabhupada's purport. He has given a very detailed purport to this verse 19. So we thought, okay, let's spend some time on this verse 19, because after reading Chaitanya Bhagavat, if we don't get any take-home message, then what's the use of hearing Chaitanya Bhagavat? That take-home message should always come so that, hearts get transformed. So thank you all so much. If you really like something, it's coming from my spiritual superior. And if you think that I've committed any mistake, which definitely I must have, because of my own shortcomings, because of my own anarthas, then you as Saragrahi Vaishnavas, please forgive me and just take the essence of what I was trying to say. It is definitely for my own purification. So please forgive me for that. Hare Krishna, we'll stop here. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Chaitanya.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida, Sundari Mataji, very beautiful class. Lots of nice instructions. It was nice to introspect for myself. Thank you so much, Mataji. And whenever you say certain things, it really affects the heart. So thank you so much for such a beautiful class, and always grateful to you. Hare Krishna.
Thank you so much, Preeti Vilasni Mataji. Thank you so much for always giving me the opportunity to read more, to introspect more. So I should say that you are helping me to progress in my spiritual life, at least purifying my own self. Because when I speak something, I just reflect that I should try to follow also in my life. So thank you so much for always giving this opportunity.
Thank you, Mataji. Give the opportunity.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida Mataji, Dandavat Pranam, all glories to Srila Prabhupada. Thank you so much, Mataji, for a beautiful, beautiful class. And your class is always a lot of instructions we get, and we, it helps us to improve ourselves in our Krishna conscious. And today's quote is also like, to develop love for Krishna. Without having love for Krishna, whatever services we are doing, we are not able to get the attraction of Krishna. So here you are telling to develop that love, we need to hear a lot. We need to take association of devotees. So then we get that loving attitude. When you hear more, we get love. Otherwise, we don't get it. I was able to connect to today's quote, and when you are speaking, thank you, Mataji. So many instructions you have given. But then I have one question. Sorry if my question is wrong. You are telling that we should not keep our day-to-day activities aside and try to push ourselves for chanting or anything else. So there is always like this. See, there is always a household responsibilities. There is always sadhana. I can't keep myself excused because I had been spending my life before joining Bhakti Sangha or being full time in Krishna, like doing services in Bhakti Sangha before I had my child, who was until 3-year-old. I was thinking like, oh, I don't have time. Oh, others are doing, but then they are having two children, even a small child, but then still they were able to go and do to the temple service. I was giving myself excuse. No, I have a small child. Let me give my time to Vrinda. No, I cannot do this service. I cannot do. But then see, now I'm able to do it. I'm able to do it. But then where I don't know if I'm giving any sacrifice to my household things and neglecting anything. So how do I understand where to draw a line? I can't say that, oh, I should not do any neglect. Okay, let me only concentrate on Vrinda. Let me take care of my Prabhu. Don't say services. Okay, no service. Where should I draw a line, Mataji? Because I was a little confused when you said that. I'm so sorry if my question is wrong.
No, Mataji, your question is not wrong. So I don't have to tell you, Mataji, you are awesome. You are doing your services very well. And that's what is needed. Now, you have asked a question. You are yourself, please try to answer. Are you able to neglect Vrinda's responsibilities? When Vrinda is hungry, she's craving for food. Do you say, I have to chant my rounds and then I'll give you food?
No, Mataji.
What you will do is that if you have a certain time of chanting, either you will prepare food beforehand or you will make sure that the food is ready by the time Vrinda or Prabhu feels hungry. So are you neglecting your duties?
No.
Rather, to accommodate devotional service, to accommodate your chanting, to accommodate your services of Bhakti Sangha, you became more efficient. Right? Mahaprabhu always gives this crude example. If a woman has an extramarital affair, has a paramour, she will do her duties so efficiently at home so that none of the family members come to a conclusion that she has a paramour, because she has to go out and meet that paramour. She has to satisfy her paramour also, her loving affairs outside the marriage. She has to do that also. But she doesn't want that this can be leaked out in my family. So she will be so efficient in the family so that she can take care of her paramour also. Right? So this Krishna consciousness, this devotional service is our paramour. We are eternally wedded to Krishna. We are eternally wedded to Krishna. So whatever we are doing in our duty is to be so efficient so that we can accommodate Krishna consciousness. That point I was making, but not to an extent where people come to know that I'm having an extramarital affair. I don't want that, right? Because that's going to create a disturbance in my family. So if my family members are not 100% Krishna conscious and whole day the hand is in the bead bag, then what example I'm setting for my family members? If my husband is not Krishna conscious, though he may be favorable, but if he is not 100% Krishna conscious and he expects that I should do the laundry timely, I should do the lunch, dinner, breakfast, everything has to be in time and I have to take care of his stuffs. If he is into that mood and whole day my hand is in my bead bag, what example I'm setting for my husband? He will think, if this is Krishna consciousness, then what benefit are you getting? The whole day the hand is in the bead bag. Rather, what I will do is I will take care of his stuff and maintain those few hours for myself so that I can dedicate it to Krishna. That I was telling, that yes, we have to perform our duties in the ashram we are in. This Grahastha ashram was not given by Krishna to me. This was my decision. I chose to be in Grahastha ashram. Now running away from the duties of Grahastha ashram, taking the pretext of chanting or taking the pretext of doing devotional service, well, that's not good, right? That is the dry renunciation. I want to renounce because I'm fed up or it's becoming a burden. This Grahastha life is becoming a burden on me. So I'm just renouncing. That renunciation is not going to lead us to anywhere. Tomorrow, if something happens, some agitation happens, again, I'll be in the same boat. So what's the point of so-called renunciation? Rather, maintaining our family members, carrying out our duties nicely, and at the same time, keeping Krishna in the center. And Mataji, this is a personal, experience, which even you must have noticed, that once you keep Krishna in center, everything falls in place. Everything falls in place. All our responsibilities are well taken care of. We don't know how, but it is well taken care of. Isn't it? So if we involve Krishna in our life, everything will be taken care. So better to involve Krishna, but at the same time, realizing the sensitive matters of the sensitivity of our family members also. Tomorrow, if you keep on saying, Vrinda, I have to chant 64 rounds, I have to chant 192 rounds, I've taken a vow, today your dad is going to feed you, I'm retiring from my kitchen. She'll also say, Ma, what is this? Right? So you have to give a proper time. And taking care of Vrinda, why do you think it is material? Taking care of Vrinda is also a devotional service, because your consciousness is that Krishna has given me the responsibility to take care of Vrinda. So that taking care of Vrinda, which you think, which others may think is a burden or is a Grahastha ashram, well, it has become a devotional service, because your consciousness is, I'm taking care of Vrinda because she is also a devotee of Krishna. Let me make her a good, pure devotee so that she can, be an example, be an exemplary for all kids, for others, So you are doing this service, which is also a service. Prabhupada used to say, take care of your kids first, then worship Krishna in the temple. Deity worship comes later on. First comes your sehat, your health. Then comes your sadhana, your devotional service. And then comes your seva, that is service. Right? So we have to follow that protocol. Hope that helps, Mataji.
Yes, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. As you said, if you keep Krishna as the center, or when you are trying to fulfill service to Krishna, do it with wholeheartedly. Krishna will take care of rest of the things, or manage. The time is going to be managed. If you don't do any service, and that day is always like lazy day, you doesn't do anything on time, nothing is done. Cooking was also done very late, even though no service is there. So those days also have been experienced, Mataji. Thank you so much for clear answer. And the next question is, Mataji, you said that our devotion level in is being estimated only when how you are reacting for the situation. So my thing is, Mataji, I'm a human, okay? I have to react. I'm not even into that level of soul level, so that some problem comes into my life and I'm so, okay, I'm laughing, and then, okay, I am happy with this, Krishna, thank you. So first 2-3 days, I'm so agitated with this. I'm thinking, why Krishna? What happened? I just don't do anything. I do my sadhana, but then I keep questioning Krishna. Why are you doing with me this? Why are you doing with me this? And then slowly after 3 days, being very much busy in services or other things, I completely forgot about it. I leave it to Krishna. But then first 3 days, I completely cry, and I like my whatever I do, my mood is there itself. Why this problem have really coming to my place? Why would have Krishna not even make me to see this complaint? He would have removed it. Why is he trying to test me, or trying to put me in this hard situation? So this is my question, Mataji. I'm so sorry if this is also something.
You yourself answered your question, that once some things happen to us, then you yourself said that you just keep quiet and you just focus on your chanting. Yes, you cry, you become agitated, but then that agitation is very normal. After all, we are human beings. We are human beings. We have to understand this, right? So when problems knocks at our door, that feeling of how to take care of that problem, that feeling of why this is happening to me, it's quite natural. It's very natural till the time we don't get attached to it. If we get attached to those, that this problem, why Krishna, and involve Krishna in it, that why he is the one who is giving up the problem, then that is a problem. Then that is a matter of concern. But till the time that agitation is there in our heart, but we are keeping it to our heart, that is what is pressing the pause button. We are not reacting. If somebody said something to me and immediately I go and give lots of excuses, well, you said this thing, but you know that on that day, this thing didn't happen. And these are the various excuses. If I go on giving, that is not as required, right? The pause button is that at that time when somebody is criticizing, just hear it, then introspect and take it as a constructive criticism. Right? So this is how we judge our progress in Krishna consciousness. Not immediately jumping onto any conclusion, but taking time on our own selves, that why this thing happened, what good has to come out of it, why Krishna did it, analyzing the entire situation, and still at the same time begging and praying Krishna to make me out of this situation. That is what is needed, right?
Yes,
Hope that helps.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you so much. Yes, dear devotees, I open forum for question and answers. Please go ahead with your questions. I see chat messages if there is any more question. Let me check. Okay.
Hare Krishna, Mataji, Danvat Pranams. All goes to Shashi Guru and Srila Prabhupada. Mataji, nice class, Mataji. This is for my own personal purification. You were saying that, we should not judge devotees and we should not be doing such things. So I was wondering, Mataji, what if you see, something, it doesn't appear right to you? How do we go about our ways then? What do we think of it? And what should our, course of action or thoughts be?
Hare Krishna, Sukhsagri Mataji. As per my limited understanding, if something wrong is going on and if it doesn't is affecting us in any way, suppose if something is going on in the temple, and if it is not affecting my sadhana, then I should be least bothered of, because it's the temple management that has to take care of. So I am nowhere involved. It's not impacting my sadhana. It's not impacting my bhajan. Why I should be bothered of? No. For what purpose? So in that case, we should just neglect it, just ignore it. And if something happens which is related to me, if somebody says something related to me and some implications come on me, which is also impacting my own sadhana, then the best is, as per my understanding, is to try to resolve it with some senior devotees. Understand why they come on to such conclusions where such implications were made on me. If it is right, accept it with folded hands and promise of not to repeat. If it is wrong, and if you are able to convince others, it's good. Even if you are not able to convince others, it's better to accept it with the folded hands and carry out your own sadhana, making sure that you don't commit that thing in future. So I don't know, your question was related to your own thing, or if it is related to some temple thing or some organization thing. If it is related to temple thing, we should not indulge into it. We should not get into all that. I have seen a lot of devotees complaining that there is so much politics in ISKCON. I agree that politics is there. But we should also understand that this ISKCON is the organization in Kali Yuga. So this is the quality of Kali Yuga, right? That quarrelsome, laziness, implications, unnecessary criticism will be there in Kali Yuga. So if ISKCON is having all this, if this organization is having all this, that purely shows that it is the organization of Kali Yuga. As Prabhupada Saraswati Thakur writes, that this place, this organization, these temples, they are the hospitals where every deceased person will come. Somebody will be diseased with anger, somebody with greed, somebody with lust, somebody with illusion, somebody with enviousness. All kind of people will come. We have to accommodate everybody, and we have to cooperate with everybody and work on. There are some instances that bother us. If they bother us, and if it is on me, first of all, then try to resolve it with senior devotees. If we are able to resolve it, if we are able to convince our point, well and good. If not, folded hands, accept it. And if certain things which is not related to me, better not to poke our nose on it. Stay aloof, let the management handle. If we have no authority, why to jump into it? Just by hearing certain things, let not our mind get agitated by hearing all this. And let not be judgmental also. Because hearing somebody of somebody's else things doesn't happen, like should not actually, basically, should not impact my understanding of that third person. Unless and until something happened to me directly with that person, why I should be judgmental just on hearing something from the another person? That's very wrong. That's very wrong. If we are hearing something, first of all, like morning also, I think so, His Grace Amarendra Prabhu was telling that if we are hearing criticism of some another devotee by some devotee, then the best is to leave that place. Leave that place immediately by something or the other. Here, Prabhupada, one of the Prabhupada disciples, Her Grace Kamalini Mataji was mentioning that whenever she get to hear some criticism about other devotees, she'll make a best excuse. Oh, I'm so sorry. I have to use a restroom. It's very urgent. And yat gatvana nivartante. Once you go, never come back. Never come back in hearing those criticisms. So the first thing is to avoid. If you are in a situation we cannot avoid that criticism, then in your mind, keep on chanting Hare Krishna Mahamantra. That's what I personally do. That if I get to hear, try to chant Hare Krishna. We are in the position where you cannot leave that place. But don't get afflicted. Don't get your mind get affected with those words. Still, that respect should be maintained for that person. Unless and until something happens to you personally, just by hearing, we should not do that. Hope that helps, Sukhsagri Mataji. Or if something very precise, then I don't know.
Yes, Mataji, as a general rule, I think what you said definitely applies. But I was only thinking, in terms of devotees who we may be very close to, if something happens with them, we also get affected, right? It's not like we can just put on a straight face and walk about. It does affect us that, something wrong has happened, and, we should at least try to do something, or at least support devotees like that,
Yeah, in that case, yes, you rightly said that if something happens to our very close friends, and in that case, we just cannot walk away from that situation, because it's our duty for our friend who is also opening her or his heart to us. So we should try to convince them, but at the same time, that convincing should be in the positive direction. If somebody has said to your friend anything, then we have to try to convince our friend as their perfect well-wisher, not as a flattery. Oh, that person said, he is stupid and I don't know why he said all this. He was not supposed to. Unnecessary creating more agitation in the mind of our friend about another person is not going to help. Rather, being an ever well-wisher of your own friend, what we should do is try to bring that friend into that situation where the friend also doesn't develop any animosity towards the person who had said something. It's very difficult to do, but we should try doing that. We should really try doing it. Convince your friends at the same time to a level where the friend becomes positive in Krishna consciousness, not getting any ill feelings for anybody else. That's how the constructive criticism is given and also is being taken. So if we are really a well-wisher of our friend, we should try our friend that maybe you must have misunderstood why, you are unnecessary creating some problems in your mind. Maybe you have not understood the real meaning, or no, you are very nice, it hardly matters to your bhajan. Why do you want to, such kind of words, such kind of compassion words should be used, but not to an extent where you be with your friend and with your friend you start criticizing the another one. Oh yes, that person is like this. Unnecessary, creating more animosity towards that friend. It won't help. It won't help.
Sure, Mataji. Thank you so much, Mataji. Hare Krishna.
Thank you. Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna. Is there any more questions? I don't see any chat questions. There is only realization. Yeah, all are realizations only, Mataji. There are no questions in the chat. Is there anybody having any more question last minute? If you have, you can go ahead.
Mataji, Hare Krishna. Thank you so much, Mataji, for a very, very inspiring class, Mataji.
Hare Krishna, Anjana Gopika Mataji. Thank you, and happy to have you on the call. I'm hearing you and seeing you after a very, very long time.
Hare Krishna Mataji, the note pranam. I am going to Balaram Das.
Except
So nice class. So nice class, Mataji. Thank you so much. Hare Krishna.
Glories to Prabhupada.
Thank you, Mataji. Please pray I can continue the class. It's very nice.
Thank you. Thank you for both of you for joining and giving your association. I hope Krishna Keshav is doing good.
Yes. He's sleeping right now.
Very nice. Thank you. Thank you for your association.
Hare Krishna Mataji, thank you so much for such a nectarian class. I personally learned so much. I'm very, very grateful to you.
Everything goes to Mataji. He belongs to me.
Hare Krishna, Kirtida, Sundari Mataji, Koti Dandavat Pranam. Srila Prabhupada, Srila Gurudev ki jai, Gopinath ki jai. As usual, learning so many things. Correct ourselves, Mataji. Hari Hari Gauranga. Thank you, Mataji, for your association and blessing. Hare Krishna, Koti Dandavat Pranam.
Thank you, Mataji. Thank you for your association. Okay, Vinita Gandharvika Mataji, I don't think so any questions are there, so we can end the call.
Hare Krishna. If there are no more questions, we can end the call here. Once again, thank you so much, Mataji, for beautiful class. And Mataji, one raise hand. Shivani Mataji, please go ahead. I don't know if you raised it.
Hare Krishna Mataji, Dandavat Pranam. Thank you for a beautiful class. I have one question, Mataji. It might be not very sensible question, but it was just coming to my mind. During the class, you mentioned there were some people who did not wanted association of Mahaprabhu. So who were you referring to? I was just wondering.
The devotees of Nadia, the people of Nadia, they don't want to get a close association of Mahaprabhu because Mahaprabhu was doing his krida, his pastime of challenging everybody on Sanskrit grammar. And nobody was able to defeat Mahaprabhu. So they were just trying to avoid him because unnecessarily he'll ask questions and then he'll rejoice his own victory. So they said, we will be put to shame. So why to just come into contact with Mahaprabhu? So that was their thought process. But we have to understand that this was the pastime of Mahaprabhu, how he would indulge in Sanskrit grammar talks with everybody. But once Mahaprabhu took that bhakta bhav, everybody wants to associate with Mahaprabhu, except the atheist, who was such a degraded class of people that even knowing that he is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, they don't want to surrender to him. Rest, everybody wants to associate. This Mukunda, he is the personal associate of Mahaprabhu, right? So when Mahaprabhu, this is all pastimes before Mahaprabhu began his Sankirtan movement. So that way we have to understand.
Thank you so much. Hare Krishna, Dandavat Pranam.
Shivani Mataji, thank you for your association. Okay, all devotees. So we'll continue this chapter tomorrow. So we'll end up here. Vancha kalpatarubhascha kripasindhu vayevacha patitanam
Pavanebhyo Vaishnavebhyo Namo Namah. Ananta Koti Vaishnav Vrinda ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Her Grace Kirtida Sundari Mataji ki jai.
Thank you, Mataji. Koti
Such a wonderful class, Mataji. Thank you so much.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna.